Greetings out there, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So today, we're going to be doing Ranking the Albums. Yep, this is a show we do on Friday, now coming out at 9 o'clock. It gives me a little more time. Had to do one last album today, plus I got a few other things I had to do. But this will be out at time tonight, unless I have a problem with the internet, which, could happen at any minute. But haven't had any so far this week, so let's cross our fingers and hope that it doesn't occur. So we have, basically, what we do for this show is my subscriber, friend Ben, he picks 4 albums from his big collection of albums, and he gives them to me. And I listen to them, and then I rank them according to how I like them, with the first place album going on to the semifinals. So we've got 4. I wasn't sure how this was going to go because I'm not familiar with any of these albums. I am familiar with I'm familiar with all but one of the groups or bands, but everything else I was. The albums I'm not overly familiar with, a little bit here and there from bits and pieces from a couple of them, but nothing really serious. So I'm going to give you what we do now. I've changed it up. So I give you a list of albums and the bands, and then I talk about them, and then I rank them at the end. So it's James Byrd, Atlantis Rising, Asia's Triple X album, Bill Bruford's Feels Good to Me, and Carlos Santana's Abraxas. Abraxas, I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, so I've listened to all 4. The James Byrd album kind of surprised me a bit. I felt it was going to be a glam hard rock kind of glam metal band type thing going on. And it was that, but it was much better than I had originally thought it was going to be. So I liked it quite a bit. I didn't love it, but I thought it was good. Had some interesting stuff on it. Actually made some notes, so I'm just going to bring the book up so I can talk a little bit more in depth about this album. So to me, this was a kind of I already said they're a glam metal band with a glam metal sound, a little bit of a Whitesnake feel, like more of that 87 feel to it. I wouldn't say that it has all of the elements there, but there was a little bit of that going on. Some melodic parts here. The guitar solos were good and catchy. The vocals, of course, had that glam metal feel to it. And it's kind of a commercial sounding album. Metal commercial sounding album, but not a terrible album by any stretch. To me, it was a pleasant surprise. The next one was the Triple X by Asia. Pretty much what I thought it was going to be. I really liked the debut album by Asia, but then again, I was much younger. It had more of an impact then. I liked it, but most of the rest of the Asia albums that have come out since just have gotten continuously more poppy and less interesting. This is pretty much an unmemorable album in a lot of ways. Some good tracks on it, though. Some good guitar, but not great guitar. It's Steve Howe toning himself down. Some of the drumming parts are quite good as well. I thought John Wetton's voice was good on it, although not as strong as I've heard him in the past, but still not too bad. So instrumentally and vocally, and because this is the original band from the original Asia album, there's a lot of good stuff going on here at times, but very poppy. Again, strong vocals. Maybe their best album for a bit, but it's a typical Asia sound, kind of poppy, very up-tempo sounding to it. Nothing unusual here. I don't think it rivals the opening album by them at all. I don't think it's really all that close, really. So, but not a terrible album. I wouldn't rip it off the stereo system and throw it down the garbage chute or anything like that. I think it has some. I think it could be an album too that once I listen to it a little bit more, it might catch on to me a little bit. So the next album out was Bill Bruford's Feel Good to Me. Now, I love Bill Bruford, as many of you know. He's one of my favorite drummers, one of my top 2 drummers. This album, however, is extremely jazzy sounding. Like, there's almost no other genre here. This is dominated by a jazzy feel to it, which I'm not a jazz person. I don't really have any interest in listening to jazz, pure jazz. I don't mind the odd jazz bit. There are some jazzy bits on some other groups' albums like Steely Dan, Atomic Rooster, Gentle Giant. All have little jazzy bits in them that I think suit their music. I like that, but here, yeah, I'm not a big pure jazz fan at all. But you have to give credit where credit is due. There's some really good instrumentation on this album. Some absolutely well orchestrated, well put together stuff here. But it just doesn't appeal to me at all, really. The last album, Carlos Santana, Abraxas. Now, I didn't, of course, know Black Magic Woman. You'd have to be on a moon not to know it. But this album was a pleasant surprise for me because I have kind of an opinion about Santana. Maybe not a good one, maybe not a bad one, but it's not someone that I listen to regular. He's not somebody that I go to, and I've kind of pretty much avoided him most of the history of my listening to. He does have a few things I like, but nothing serious. This album surprised me, though. I did like it quite a bit more than I thought I was gonna. It's kind of bluesy. It's got that kind of almost that kind of a Mexican feel to it as well. Some strong guitar, of course. That's what you would expect from this. And it had some interesting guitar parts as well. And as well as I thought the vocals were, although not dominating here because there wasn't enough of them to be dominating, the ones that I did hear I did like and did enjoy. So this album was a pleasant surprise as well. So now it's time to rank these things. So for me, it was easy to put number 4. Actually, we're going to do, as you know, from 4th to 1st, worst to 1st, or last to top, whatever you want to call it. And I'll give you the 4th one first. So the 4th one was the Bill Bruford album. Not really a surprise. It wasn't even close. It was easily the one I liked the least. Having said that, I can't say anything negative about the album. So you got some great stuff going on there. You got some great instrumentation, some good vocals at times. I think it's well put together album. I just personally don't like that sound, so it's not something that doesn't do anything for me at all. So it was easily the worst, and so I didn't even pass it, to be honest with you. So the next one up was the Asia album. It was much better, I think, than the Bruford album. Not technically, but in appeal. So it's going to be about appeal here because I don't want people to think that I think the Asia album, the Bruford album was crap, because it isn't crap. It's just not my style, right? So the Asia album, a poppy album, but I think again it's pretty much what you would expect Asia to sound like. They just get poppier all the time. It wasn't a terrible album. I did pass it. I didn't think it was a great album, but I didn't dislike it either. It's maybe an album, again, like I said, that might grow on me a little bit, but for tonight it's going to come in 3rd. So the top 2 albums were pretty close here. I went back and forth between which one I liked better. It wasn't much separating the two, maybe a hair. I thought they were both good albums, not great albums, not fantastic albums. They were better than okay, but not very good, not in the very good category, but somewhere in the good category. Thought they were both pretty solid here. I gave the edge to the James Byrd album. So Santana came second with Abraxas. This is an album that I think could have grown on me quite a bit. If it had won, I would have got another chance to listen to it. Had some good stuff in there. Although I'm not a huge blues fan, I do like blues on occasion, and this is really good. But it also has that kind of different sounding blues. It's got that Santana sound to it. But there's some good stuff on this album. I think this is a strong album. And so for me, it came number 2, but just by a hair. Almost gave it to it, and then I decided, you know what? The difference for me with the James Byrd album versus the Santana album is that I think there's more upside for me for the James Byrd album. I think it'll move up a little bit and has a better chance to go on to some better stuff here. And I would like to hear it again. So it ended up winning by just by a hair. So James Byrd will go on to the semifinals. Now in there with Fish's Virgil and Samson's Shock Attacks. All these albums are new to me. I don't really know any of them. I didn't find any of them super great so far, but I did think that some of them were quite good and had better potential. And so I went with another album I thought had more potential. So there you have it. So the way they ranked was James Byrd in first with his Atlantis Rising. Number 2 was Santana's Abraxas. Number 3 was Asia's Triple X. And number 4, Bill Bruford's Feels Good to Me. So there you have it. For ranking the albums tonight, that's the way it ended up. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Any comments about any of the albums or your own opinion about these things, you can put those in the comments section. And we'll be back next Friday with another episode of Ranking the Albums. It'll be episode number 4. Yeah, we're almost halfway through already. It's going good. And I hope to see you then. Take care and have a good one. Goodbye.